Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Poison Kami here. Me, myself, and I back at it again with another video. And today, you guys wanted me to react to what Globku has uploaded on his channel about him playing the game and his thoughts on it, and him relaying some more information, confirming things like mechanics and characters and stuff to us. And to be fair, I was actually debating reacting to it and giving my thought on it, because as I'm a well-known top player in the community, with all these mechanic changes, everyone is now kind of looking at me and other top players like, so what's going on? How does this affect us, Okami? So yeah, don't worry, I'm here to basically relay my thoughts and predictions as to how this would go on more of a competitive scene, because I know a lot of us are going to be watching and playing in the competitive scene in Connections, so don't worry, I got your back. Let's go ahead and check out what Globku has to say, and I'll give my reactions to it. Oh yeah, also big shout out to Globku for actually relaying this one to us. He could have just remained enigmatic about it, but he was really nice enough to relay all of the information that he had learned at it, and I'm really glad that he actually tried implementing the tilting out of combos that I taught him, and the switch tech there, so he was able to communicate with the producers there, or with the representatives there, and he was able to talk to them about like switch tech and things like that. Massive shout out to Globku about that. Honestly, Globku is a beast for that. Really appreciate that, actually.
Chakra is just always regenerating. You do a jutsu or a chakra dash and you spend that chakra, and after a small delay, it just starts regenerating again. You can still stop and manually charge chakra, and that will be faster, but the way the game is right now, I don't think you'll ever need to do that.
Okay, so he's talking about chakra regeneration. Chakra regeneration seems to be faster, which is actually something that's happened in Naruto Storm 4 Evo, the modded version of Storm 4 for the PC. Much more of a competitive version. So with that being said, they've actually did the same thing. They made it faster. Now, it isn't as fast as probably what Globku made it out to be, because when Globku did the on-screen example, it's not like an official HUD, it's just an example as what Globku made up himself. It appeared to come back a lot faster. And then Globku said that charging chakra on top of it means it will be faster charging as well. With this altogether, this tells me that support chakra chargers are no longer a thing, which tells me that support only assists, support typings no longer exist. Or at least they've changed them. We haven't got a lot of news on that yet. I want to actually figure that out. I want to dig into that. But yeah, basically this just means more chakra. Now, I actually can figure out why they've done this and why chakra is now a much more of an accessible asset, which I will intertwine in the future examples that Globku is now about to talk about.
Time I tried using tilt, it just never worked. So at some point I just asked, hey, is tilt gone? And the answer is yes. Kind of. So the tilt input is definitely gone. If you tilt the stick and hit the attack button, no move will come out anymore. But every character now has a new thing, which is a second jutsu. Yes, every character now has 2 ninjutsu instead of just 1. And what used to be the tilt move on all the characters that are right now in Storm 4 is now their second ninjutsu. And this has so many implications. Find new ways to use these abilities, but mostly on the offensive side of things. But also the input for the second ninjutsu for every character is triangle plus the ninja tool button, which means powered up ninja tools are just gone.
The more jutsu, so yes, he said there are now 2 ninjutsu, and that one of them actually replaces the triangle square input, which is actually used for chakra kunai, which means that chakra kunai no longer exist. So I guess you can now press square to throw your regular kunai, and that's just how it is, but chakra kunais are no longer a thing. Interesting. I mean, it's not like we use Chakra Kunai a lot. I think stylers used it a lot in terms of their guard pressure, so that's going to hurt the styling community quite a lot. In terms of like regular competitive players, it does actually hurt competitive players quite a bit, because when we're doing guard pressure, we can no longer like jump ninja move into Chakra Shuriken cancel. That's something I do a lot with like Pain or whatever, but I mean, a lot of characters, it should be okay. But I think the fact that we're changing it into Jutsu, it is an interesting mix. I think this now turns into more mix-ups on block. So when you're comboing someone on block, it's more so, oh, when is my opponent going to use a second Jutsu on block? It's now going to be doing more mind game-esque. I think Storm Connections is going to be very mind games-based. And now going back to the whole chakra regeneration thing, this is why chakra regeneration is needed, because so much from what we've seen in the trailers is cancelling and spark dashing and spark, cancels out of these jutsus and stuff. All that costs a lot of chakra. If you play the current Storm games, you know that cancelling your jutsus and spark dashing out of things cost chakra on top of chakra. Once you're done, you're in debt. So basically, with the chakra regeneration is actually needed for CC2's new idea of implementing the second jutsu and having these jutsus implemented in combos. Like I said in one of my previous videos, I think Connections is going the Demon Slayer route in terms of implementing jutsus into their combos, and doing that they need to have fast chakra replenish. They need to replenish chakra faster, so that you guys can do these combos more so. So far, I don't have any issues with this. I think it's good. Like I said, like what Globku actually said, it brings more of an aggressive output, and I'm more concerned as to how defensive players are going to get out of combo pressure since we can no longer tilt. If you can't tilt, you're literally forced to stand there and block, or you have to sub and escape. And this is what I was saying in my previous videos: is substitutions are now going to be needed more now than ever in Storm games. Connections will make you rely on subs a lot. So I really hope they don't listen to Globku when he says take the subs away, because you're gonna need them by the sounds of it. Because if there aren't any other ways to escape combos, maybe you can use their second triangle square jutsu to escape combos. But Globku hasn't said that, and I haven't heard any other sources say that yet. But let's continue.
Now, guard break is still up on the D-pad, that has not changed. But this time, it does not have 2 stocks. You can just use it during the whole match as many times as you want. But it is on a cooldown. So it's something you gotta look out for once in a while if you are blocking some pressure. But after you dodge it once, you'll be fine because it goes on cooldown and you can relax for a little bit while it comes back. It also has a much bigger range than before. Like the dash that guard breaks, it goes a lot further, which sounds like a buff, and maybe it is, but to me it felt like a nerf.
Okay, so these new guard breaks actually sound very interesting, and it actually raises some questions. Actually raises more questions on my end. So he says that the guard break is now on cooldown rather than 2, so people can use guard breaks as much as they like, so people are going to be throwing them out, which I actually quite like this, because it's going to teach players to move around more. A lot of you brand new players, you stand still and you block a lot of the neutral game. This is going to teach you to move, which is great. I feel like Connections, a lot of what I'm learning here is Connections is teaching new players how to get into Storm with a punishment system that's easily avoidable. And I like how it teaches, these new players they're gonna have to move and stuff. But the question is usually done in the item slot, and I'm guessing it's still the up D-pad button to use it. So what does that mean for other items? Are other items on cooldown as well? Like, are items are now on more of a cooldown basis? Are some items on longer cooldown than others? Are they taken away? Are they still there but limited in numbers? What's the deal with that? I might actually hit up a Globku and see if I can ask him some questions after this video. And then he said that the length of the guard break actually goes longer, so if you whiff it, then you get traveling a lot longer. I'm assuming you can just leader switch to cancel it or something, just to make yourself safe. And I'm glad that Globku actually admitted that leader switching is coming back and switch check is there, so that is always still going to be a thing. So, leader switching is the greatest thing that's ever happened to Storm 4. It's coming back into Connections, that's great. But yeah, guard breaks sound interesting. I quite like it because I think it's going to teach players to move around a lot more. And I think in the later Storm games over the years, CC2 has always wanted us to try and move around more, because back in Generations, the meta was to bunny hop, literally just jump and block all the time. We had no incentive to ninja move, but now with the implementation of counters and now ninja moves being buffed, we have more of a reason to move around the field a lot more and be more aware of our surroundings. But yeah, that's an interesting change.
Counterattack is super busted. I wouldn't say this stuns you, but it's close. It staggers you. You know how you get hit by a melee attack by any character and the enemy does a little stagger? It's kind of like that. They have the stumbling animation, but they're not knocked away from you, which means you just get a free combo if you land a counter. They can still sub out of it because they're not stunned at all, but still, that is a direct buff to counter. I think it's a lot stronger the way this is right now, but that's not why I say that it's super busted. Counter is free. It doesn't make your chakra bar smaller anymore, it's just free. It did feel easier to punish, or maybe the counter window is smaller so you can hit them on recovery a lot easier. But yeah, you can still leader switch to make the counter safe, so it's gonna be messed up.
The counter attack as well. So he talks about the counter and that the counter can be used over and over and over again. That's not good. That's not good. It's bad enough that players actually use counters twice in a row or 3 times in a row. And in Evo, they made it so that they can only do it about twice in a row before you can't do it anymore. And then it has a slower recharge. The fact that counters are now free, that's problematic. I don't like that. I don't like that counters are free. My issue is that counters were easy to land against aggressive players. You couldn't be aggressive at the cost of counters and stuff. The fact that counters are free? No, that needs to change. 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 Like, I feel like CC2, what they've done is that they've looked at all these aggressive options with secondary jutsus, more chakra, things like that, longer guard breaks and stuff. And then they're like, oh crap, we've done all these cool aggressive options. What do we do about defense? Oh, that's fine. We'll just give them unlimited counters. Oh, good idea. No. Oh my god, no. Because from what Globku is saying, counters now produce a stun in which you can combo off of. Ooh, I don't know about that, Chief. I don't know. I mean, he said he could sub out of it. So then again, this is what I'm saying. Subs are more important than ever. I think this is going to be a game where you're going to have to pick and choose how you're subbing, and you got to be careful with these subs. When you are being aggressive, you need to make sure you have at least 2 to 3 subs on deck. Maybe not even one. You need to have at least 3 to 2 because in case you get countered or something happens to you, you need substitutions to cover yourself. So I think subs are going to be very, very important in this game by the sounds of it, and hopefully a lot of switch tech if the chakra or the support gauge isn't as important. But yeah, man, I think there still needs to be a limit on counter. I think counters just need to have like a toll on the chakra again, like the chakra bar, or at least their own like gauge on the HUD, and then counters need to be limited. It needs to be limited to like, oh, you can do 2 in a set amount of time, no more than 2. I think this is where safe aggression applies a lot to you. Canceling your dashes. But yeah, I don't like the sound out of that. I do like the sound that you can get a combo off of it. That's pretty cool. Because again, you can sub out of it. It's a step up from Revolutions, and it's more of a buffed versions of Storm 4s. So there's now more of an incentive to counter. However, I don't like that you can spam it over and over again. I'm still actually kind of iffy on the guard break over and over, because you can do that over and over.
A chance to try all the new characters, including the new Boruto, Kawaki, and Jigen. The only ones I didn't play as were Ashura and Indra, but I did play against them. They have some crazy AoE jutsu that is kind of substitution proof that feels very, very strong. And that's kind of what I mean by these characters are feeling like they're built different. I think they're getting really creative with their movesets, especially with their ninjutsu. I mean, the new Sasuke, we've all seen his triple fireball jutsu, right, from the first gameplay, but now you know that every character has 2 jutsu. The other ninjutsu from Sasuke, it just swaps places with you. So let's say Sasuke's right here, an enemy is dashing towards him, you swap places, he just keeps dashing the wrong way. And if you're on the receiving end of that, it does take you a moment to realize what happened because it's so fast and it's disorienting. I thought it was really cool. Kawaki has a karma jutsu where it just puts his hand out and absorbs anything, so they're getting a lot more creative with jutsu, and that's awesome to see because that leaves me so much more excited to see their next character announcements.
So with the new characters, obviously I've already made an in-depth analysis, but he said with the likes of Sasuke, his second jutsu is that he can switch places with the opponent. That is going to be very powerful. Very, very powerful. I wouldn't be surprised if this actually creates some bugs or glitches down the line. I'm sure like the in-depth players can really, the road lab monsters can actually make some bugs with this, with clipping outside of out of bounds, or like doing it when another character is doing a certain jutsu or an action, and then changing places at a specific frame can then cause some bugs. I really hope CC2 have tested this enough, because switching places with an opponent and then having their action, because Globku said if you had an opponent dashing at you and you're playing the Sasuke and you switch places with them, you are now the one dashing. Which, that's interesting. I don't think it means that Sasuke will copy other people's jutsus. It's just more so like, I'm concerned. I'd have to see it myself to fully understand and give an opinion on that, but I do like it. And then obviously he said that Ashura and Indra have like AoE like jutsus, which I'm all for actually. I like the idea of AoE jutsus. I think one of my main complaints is that there weren't enough of them. So having like an AoE type of jutsu is kind of cool. We've only got very few characters that do that already, so having more will make it more interesting. And like I said, subs are going to be needed now more than ever, but that means that with the substitution usage, you do have to be careful on how you use them. Again, in terms of the competitive side, I think it's kind of good.
They also showed me the new simple controls, and it's a completely different control scheme, by the way. It's not just, hey, you got auto combos now. No, all the buttons are different. Hitting triangle throws a jutsu, just like that. If you want a chakra dash, you just hold the block button and hit the jump. In fact, holding the block button is what levels up a lot of your face buttons. So I told you how triangle is a ninjutsu. If you hold the block and hit triangle, that's your ultimate. I think it does take away some of your freedom and options, so I don't think anyone who is already into Storm is going to switch to that, but it's a really nice control scheme for beginners, 100%, and it's definitely a viable control scheme up to a certain level.
He mentioned the simple controls, which as a competitive player, I don't think is going to affect me too much, because I don't think I'd see myself using them ever, but with the simple controls, he said that basically your main way of using stuff is all your face buttons get lifted when you use R2 for block. So when you're holding R2 to block, your jump or your dashing input or your circle input and stuff, they all get enhanced basically. So it's like block X for chakra dashing. So I'm assuming block circle and block square are your jutsus as well then, basically. And then, whatever else he got going on. This is much more of a simplified way, but I think by holding block and doing stuff, it is teaching new players to be on a very defensive route and then just to throw stuff out whenever they feel like it. I hope it helps new players learn how to get good. I think it just depends on the meta of the game. Gloku seems to think that the game is very aggression based, which I'm in love with because I just want to be more aggressive a lot of the time. So I really hope that there's a way to teach players on how to do aggression safely. So I'm intrigued to see how that would go, but I haven't really got much input on the new stuff. I think a lot of this I have to see for myself to give more of an in-depth analysis.
Oh, I did see the stage selection screen. It has 2 pages now. It's very similar to the Storm 4 selection screen, but it's a 9x4 grid instead of a 10x4 grid like you have in Storm 4. So there are 36 pages in that first page, and they didn't show me the second one, so I don't know how many stages are in the second page.
With the stage and character select, character select obviously he couldn't give much on, but yeah, he actually confirmed what I said in my 2 videos ago when I said that demo build, it included these set characters. It did. So I was right about that. My theories, they're on par. With the stages, he said there are 2 pages, and then a column has been taken out in the first page, and there's a whole second page. So if there's a whole second page, and he said there was, 36 stages on the first page, that means there's room for another 36 stages on the second page. So that's kind of cool. That gives you a grand total of 72 stages to be possible. Whether they give us 72 stages or not, I don't know. But I'm sure CC2 and Bandai are aware of the possibilities of stages they could give us, even for DLC. Let's be face it, we don't pay for it, and I'm down for it. So with the broken mechanics section of his video, he talked about how he relayed the fact that you could do switch tech, and the guy presenting it had no idea what a switch tech was, which is why I am so thankful that I taught Globku what switch tech was during our videos together, and that he was then able to relay that onto the representative, because one question that was in my brain and a few other top players' brains in the community was is CC2 fully aware of switch tech, or are representatives at Bandai even is everybody in the know about this? Now, obviously, I like to think that CC2 was in the know about it because I have made videos and they've kind of reverted patches based on what I've been saying in my videos at very convenient times and stuff. A lot of us remember that during the Momoshiki patch era. Obviously, I think a lot of the guys at Bandai and stuff, they don't fully know or understand, and they do want to get in touch with the community, and I'm really happy that they're able to listen to Globku about that. Whether they consider it a glitch to be patched out or not, I don't know. But by the sounds of it, what it sounds like is that what CC2 have done is taken the mechanics from Storm 4 switching and literally just placed it directly into connection switching. So leader switching looks to be more or less exactly the same. I don't think there's going to be much of a difference with leader switching. I think you're still going to be able to do buffers. I think you can still do switch tech. I think it's all still looking very, very similar. Is this an issue? Those of you that don't like buffers, yeah, it's going to be an issue. Actually, now that I think about it, this is going to be a massive issue. A realization, rather. With this chakra bar regenerating as fast as it is, that means you're going to be able to do non-stop jutsu buffers and jutsu switch check galore. You could already do a lot in Storm as it is, but that's only dependent on the support gauge. I think the support gauge should have more of a harsher cooldown in this game then. You should be able to leader switch less, because with the amount of chakra you get given in a neutral game from what Globku is telling us, you can do jutsu on top of jutsu, you can layer with C-dashes, you can do so much. The neutral game just might be just full of jutsus. Might be very spammable. That's a little concerning. A little concerning. Yeah. But anyways, that is my thoughts on everything about what Globku has said. My final conclusion is that I like a lot of it. I like the new jutsu thing. I'm on the fence with the new chakra replenish. The new characters look great. The stages, apparently from Globku says, is going to be an interesting feature. I'm more so concerned about this countering. I don't like the idea you can do it over and over, and I don't like that it's free. I don't like that. So we'll see what happens with that. We need to get our hands on this game soon so I can get more of a definite answer to these things. How is this going to affect the top players or the competitive scene? I think it is going to be very fun and very fun to watch and very fun to play in. It is going to cause for some very explosive matches, and a lot of jutsus are going to be thrown. And I think a lot of people are going to make some very interesting combo routes. I don't think two players combos are going to look the same. I think people are going to cancel out combos and do lots of different ideologies and stuff, and there's going to be a massive variety. And I think this game should bring a lot of player independence, you know, a lot of individual identities with players, so that's going to be good. But that's pretty much all I got to say. Is I think the competitive scene is still going to be fun, it's still going to be great to look at. There are going to be issues in terms of the counter. And now that Globku has told the Bandai about switching and the tech we can do switching, and that apparently is deemed as glitches, we could expect those to be patched out on day one of the game being released, or maybe not even not long after day one of the game release. Either way, I don't care, because I know that my fundamentals are still good enough to be, you know, really great at the game, and I'm just looking forward to it. I'm excited. Like, despite all this, I'm still happy. Like, I am more concerned for the casual players than the competitive players. The competitive players are fundamentally good enough to know what to do in a lot of situations. I'm more so concerned for the casuals. But with that said, that is my reactions, my thoughts on Globku's video. As always, it's been your boy Poison Akami. Janne.